Today is July the 29th, 2021. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. And today I am in Tulsa at the OSU Tulsa campus to interview the family siblings of Kendall Durfey. And this will be part of our project called the We Will Remember Promise Oral History Collection. And before we get started with that, we're going to learn a little bit about why we're here. January 27th, 2001, a plane carrying Kendall and 9 other men associated with the Oklahoma State University's men's basketball program went down and everyone on board was lost. Kendall had assisted with the radio broadcast for the OSU Colorado game that day in Boulder. And following the accident, the university and the cowboy community made a promise to never forget the men lost that day. So thank you for coming today. Let's start with having you introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Nelson Durfey. I'm the middle child. Kendall is the oldest in our family. Kendall and I both worked in the broadcast business. I still do. And we used to, bounce ideas off each other all the time. So, but that's a little bit about me so far, and we'll pick up later, I guess.
Hi, I'm Amy Durfey Tynes. I was 6 months younger than Kendall. I live in upstate New York near Cooperstown, New York. I'm a high school special education teacher. I was in Oklahoma till 1983, and then I moved back to New York State. I've been teaching for the past 33 years.
My name is Karlene Collins. I was the youngest sibling of Kendall. And just to give you a quick little bit of history on myself and Kendall is if we were going to get in trouble, we knew we were going to get in trouble. So we always got the last word in or the last whatever in. And then Amy and Nelson both kind of hid what they were doing from Mom. And they were...
That's how I saw it all.
So they didn't get in trouble as much as Kendall or myself.
And so how much younger?
6 years.
6 years younger and 6
months younger.
And
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So when you all moved to Oklahoma, you would have been early teens?
12.
Or getting to 12, okay.
Kendall I was a freshman, so Kendall was a sophomore.
Yeah.
And I would have been 8th or 9th, 9 years old, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
So was that a move challenging or an okay move or a little bit of both?
Yeah, it was okay.
I think a little bit challenging starting in 9th grade
Yeah.
and not really knowing anybody because the friendships of everybody else in high school had already formed.
Right, absolutely.
Okay. So I'll back up. Before we get to Oklahoma, early years, like when he was, what's your earliest memory of doing something with Kendall? Could be a birthday or Christmas or bike riding or whatever.
We used to build go-karts.
Yeah.
We used to always build
We had-
go-karts.
20 acres in Hyde Park, New York, and we were outside a lot. I thought, don't you?
Yeah, we used to play outside. Well, I think everybody did back in the day.
Right.
You got home from school and you're outside playing.
Finished your homework, went outside, and you just stayed outside there until you got called in.
Right.
But yeah, the go-karts, we would always, steal the wheels off of the baby carriage stuff and, engineer a piece of lumber with an axle in it. And then, you guys would push you or down a hill or something. You'd probably do a crash test down there.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah,
Kendall
definitely.
crash tested we had a powered go-kart when we got a little older. I don't know. I must have been 5 or 6 probably by then. And of course it was an old one we sort of rebuilt. And remember the steering wheel came off?
Oh, yeah.
You ran ready to that rock.
And there was a big rock at the end of our driveway, and the road came down to it. and there was no steering where you thought there should be or when there should be. And remember hitting the rock, but I don't remember anybody. We
Didn't get
didn't
hurt.
get in trouble, didn't get hurt or anything like that.
Now, Kendall did break his ankle, I guess it
Well,
was.
yeah, because
Climbing
it
a
was,
tree.
well, it was Easter Sunday.
Was it?
And yeah, it was, I remember it. He climbed up a tree and you'd ride him down. Well, he climbed up the tree and the tree snapped. So he ended up like going back into the house and yeah.
And he didn't go to the doctor until the following day. For one, he thought he'd get in trouble, and the other reason was probably because he had been doing things separately than probably what Mom thought he should be doing.
Did y'all team up, like 2 and 2, or the girls against the boys?
Not
or
really, no,
any of that?
no. Didn't we also have a radio station?
Yeah.
The turntable in the basement of the house.
Yeah.
That we
absolutely.
play radio station.
We grew up and my parents had the radio station when we were born. So actually Kendall lived in what became the newsroom was the nursery
That's
of
interesting.
the house that they
Cool.
built. I'm sure Mom will touch on all that. And then we moved out to our house in the country by the time Karlene was born. And then Amy was, I got 2 sisters about the same time. I think Amy showed up a month or 2 before Karlene was born.
Yeah.
So I got 2 sisters at once. But we had the radio station, so my dad had built a production studio in the basement of the new house, so he could do production there instead of going to the station. And we would play radio. We would also ride the turntables.
Turntable,
It was
oh,
a
yeah.
16-inch platter turntable. The old
Kind of like a
broadcast
merry-go-round.
turntable. Yeah, get on it and spin. But we would play radio. Kendall would be the DJ. I think I actually have a tape I could get you from when we were playing radio back then. I did digitize one I found.
Yeah, because you would act like you were doing the traffic or the
Weather.
The oldest, Amy and Kendall, would both kind of dictate who was playing what on that particular day.
But there weren't a lot of recordings left because we would just record it and listen to it, and then we'd record over it the next time we played radio. So.
And your dad didn't mind?
No,
Didn't mind?
no, he was,
As long as it didn't break anything.
So there's we used to because we'd go up to the radio station on Saturdays with my dad and
Clean.
we'd clean the station
Go out for lunch.
because my grandfather and my dad I remember my grandfather saying, yes, you're the owner and you're also the janitor. So I remembered that into my business days too. It's like you got to do everything. But we'd go up and clean and stuff, and we would bother the DJs that were on the air, and we could go through the stack of records where they got duplicate copies. The promotions would send like maybe 2 copies of the top 40 and stuff. So we would have, all these 45s, and we'd take them home and we would play radio and we would produce our own commercials, and
That's cool.
because you had to have commercials, otherwise you
Yeah,
weren't going to
you're
make any
not paying.
money. So
Yeah.
nobody get paid.
So you get your money.
So you're learning all kinds of things, how to manage, how to clean, how to
Yeah.
put a program together.
Yeah. So I don't think my dad had a problem with us playing down there because we were learning the business.
I think in music in the early 70s.
Early 70s, yeah. We had a lot of good songs.
So what kind of station was it? I mean,
Top 40.
top 40.
Yeah.
Not country.
No,
No.
it was up in New York. I've heard stories that we played we were one of the first stations to play a Beatles song and all that stuff because they put it on in 61, 62, one on the air. The station did, so.
What was the call letters?
WHVW,
Was it 9?
950,
Yeah.
950 AM, yep.
So is that what brought y'all here, radio?
In a roundabout way, our dad taught at Dutchess Community College in Hyde Park, Poughkeepsie area in Dutchess County, New York, and taught radio and television stuff. And one of his students, who also is an Oklahoma name now, Matt Skinner, if you've known that, he's the spokesman for I know he was on all the time when the earthquakes were happening. He's with the Department of Energy or something with the state. I'm not sure I have to look what he is. But Matt Skinner was one of his students in New York and wanted to transferred to ORU here in Tulsa. So when we were on a vacation in 1975, which I'm sure there's stories from,
You got memories.
we went across, my dad loaded up my mom and us 4 kids, plus my 2 cousins,
Oh, there were 9
Mike
of us.
and
Dave, yeah.
Dave and Mike, and my grandmother, my mom's mom, 9 of us.
In a
we
truck
drove
with a camper.
from New York and camped out all summer and went to California and Disney and up the coast to San Francisco and
Yeah.
all. But we stopped in Tulsa to talk to ORU about Matt Skinner transferring out here and what credits would work and stuff. And they offered my dad a job. So,
On the spot, huh?
well, I think when we got back from the trip, I think there was a letter saying we'd like to
So that's how we
talk
ended
to you
up out
about
here.
working. So in 77 we moved here. So
They'd been here, almost.
They've been here, yeah,
They've been here
ever since.
right, yeah. Then we got here, but that you guys probably have stories from the road trip.
Yeah, you rode in the back of the
Well, the camper,
Of the
the camper. It was a truck camper.
You couldn't do that these days.
No.
I
No,
guess.
no. I remember going around the corner where the pears came. I still remember Kendall saying, "Duh," that's
The
what it
pears
felt
flew
like.
off the
The pear.
kitchen table or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Mom made matching shirts, so whenever
Oh,
we
yeah.
went to any amusement park, we all had the same shirts
We
on.
always had
Matching, 9 of us with matching shirts.
We would travel a lot in the 72 when Disney World in Florida opened. We went down there because we had press stuff from the radio station. And that was, I remember our matching shirts there. And we went and saw NASA and all that stuff. I have some slides from all that I've digitized from that trip.
Yeah, and that
And
was
so we had done a lot of the Southeast before. So when we did our nationwide trip, we pretty much went like to St. Louis, I think was like our first
Mhm.
main stop.
Across the Mississippi, huh?
Yeah, and then we started doing more tourist
Venturing
stuff.
out.
Yeah, because we came into, of course, my dad teaching college and stuff had this book. We stayed in. Remember, we stayed in dorms
Yeah,
because they were cheap.
they were
or
and they were
free or-
closed for the summer,
Yeah,
so we would do
so we
yeah.
stayed in Tahlequah
in the dorms.
in the dorm, and we went and saw the Trail of Tears play that they had at the outdoor amphitheater. I remember in Oklahoma, and then we came to Tulsa, and I cut my hand on the slide at the KOA, and there's still a scar.
The KLA, we don't see those too much
No.
anymore in campgrounds of
America.
America.
But the boys were assigned to sleep in the tent, so Kendall and myself and my cousins Dave and Mike slept in the tent every night, and then
We got inside the camper. But then if it rained, Mom had made a hammock inside the truck so you could have somebody sleep on the front seat, somebody sleep underneath the
yeah.
hammock, and then the hammock would hang so you could sleep 3 in the truck.
so we could all be inside if it was
Rain.
raining and couldn't do the tent.
She thought this through, didn't she?
She did.
But we set up that tent every night, us boys, and then we had cots in it and stuff. So it was a trip.
It was fun.
Wake up and scare everybody during the night or that
We,
sort of thing, pranks.
We had the earthquake, remember, on Kendall's birthday.
I am trying to remember that.
In California, on Kendall's birthday, we had an earthquake. And I remember us standing out there and not realizing what was going on, but there were some downed trees that they had used as seats. And that's when it,
We might have been at Yosemite, I think.
yeah. And that was actually on Kendall's birthday.
Which is August 1st.
You know, roughly what year would it?
That was 75.
70s, something.
75 when we
Yeah,
took our trip.
75.
So he would have been 13. Was he born in
Yeah.
62?
He was.
62.
Yeah.
So
62.
would have been
Yeah.
turning 13 or 14 that year. 13, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we camped out a lot even later in life. My brother and I did. So
So he acquired the love of the outdoors
yeah,
Right.
that early on.
but what else
That
do
was-
you guys remember?
Well, that was, you said elementary, right? Did we cover his elementary years? I think so. He played string bass, I remember that,
Yeah.
being in Fiddler on the Roof. And I remember going to watch that when he was in middle school,
Yeah.
junior high back
He
then.
played
Didn't
this
call it middle-
stand-up.
Stand-up, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember going to see Fiddler on the Roof when he was in it.
And he was in a lot of stuff through Oral Roberts
When we-
University.
Right, when we moved to Tulsa, or to Coweta, they didn't have an orchestra at Coweta. It was Coweta, so
Small.
so he started playing the tuba in the band,
Quite a difference.
and to keep up with the string bass, he got into the orchestra at ORU. So he played string bass with them through high school and college.
Did they have to make him practice, or did he want to practice?
Oh, we probably had to make him. None of us like to practice. We're gonna practice 30 minutes a day.
But he did play electric bass in a
Band.
rock and roll cover band in Coweta.
In high
on-
school,
on
you did-
tap, yeah.
right.
On tap.
Untapped? Was it?
On
On
tap.
tap, they did a
On
high
tap.
school.
He
Kids
did the high school challenge shows, and we played at they played over at the, I would always try to get out of classical help because then I could go help set up wrong. But played at the elementary school, I think when you were still in the elementary school.
Probably.
Did the rest of you play instruments too?
I did flute.
I played saxophone.
I did trombone for one semester. I'm not the musician that everybody else in the family
And no piano?
had that.
huh?
Yeah.
No one played the piano?
I toyed around with it.
I took lessons
We
for
all,
about
I
2
think we all
weeks, and
took lessons.
That was it.
Yeah.
Somebody from church taught us.
Yeah,
so it
I
was
took lessons for
from David.
what
Dave.
seems to be a
Short
long.
amount. I didn't, because
Yeah.
Kendall didn't.
Thinking the trombone and the flute, all that makes a lot of noise when you are practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More elementary did we practice, and by the time we got to high school, you either did it or you. But when the band we were in, if you didn't memorize the music, you were in trouble. I mean, we all had to memorize.
Coweta High bands were
Talking.
militaristic.
They were.
and yeah, because you would be like in band, and they might have you stand up and play from memory the song.
So you couldn't
Just
fake it.
random. You couldn't. Yeah, you couldn't
No, there
fake
was. And Kendall did tuba and band there.
it. Yeah, he was the
Marching
band
band.
president his senior year.
Did he carry that on into college? Did he play
He played the stand-up bass, the string bass at ORU.
Or you?
Yeah.
Not the marching band. I don't know if they have even a marching
I
band.
don't think so. But he played there with, what was it, Dr. Epperly was the...
So in high school, did he have a favorite subject? Or least favorite, one or the other?
Probably lunch. Yeah, I don't think.
And, I mean, I think he liked doing the sciences, physics and stuff. I remember talking about having the physics class and the calculus stuff with... I think he liked the math stuff.
Okay.
Or at least complained enough about it and doing the homework.
Yeah.
You know, I remember him talking about it, I guess.
Did you all share a room, or did you all have a separate?
We shared rooms.
No.
Well, early on.
Early on, and then Kendall had his own, and Karlene had her own, and you and I had a separate
Yeah.
building.
We had taken there was an old barn on our property, and we took it and did over a couple of bedrooms and a bathroom there.
And the good ones got to stay up there.
Not the oldest, so it was.
No, because they might sneak out, so we had to.
No, just the ones that knew just enough to keep themselves out of trouble, and it would get blamed on Kendall and I. So
She thinks we blamed it all on her.
you did,
No, Mom and Dad just knew what to look for by the time you were around.
yeah.
So what sort of things would you do?
Just different. Like if I remember, Dad would always, when he was driving with all of us, he would get angry, and his cheeks would
Wiggle.
wiggle, and then he'd be like, "You better stop doing that."
Because you were probably being loud,
hmm
and we weren't.
Yeah, but Kendall and I, we were like, if we're gonna get in trouble, we're just gonna do what we want to do.
Kendall,
And you can blame it on me because I'm already gonna get in
you're the
trouble.
youngest.
And Amy and Nels were the other way. They wanted them to think that they were as precious as They were.
Okay.
Kendall worked at McDonald's in high school,
Yeah.
worked at the grocery store in high school.
By choice? I mean, he just
By
wanted,
choice.
just wanted to
Yeah.
earn his own spending money.
Right. He got a car. Of course, he was the first to start driving because his oldest got a car for $75, and the engine was seized up. So we learned how to work on cars
Mm-hmm.
and got that rebuilt.
And weren't the brakes not good on that car, so we had to park up against the pole so it
There was
didn't.
no park. You couldn't put it in a park.
So we had to park up against the pole so it didn't roll.
At the high school. That was his parking spot. He parked
They just
against
knew
the
it.
telephone pole so it wouldn't roll away.
Who taught him to drive?
I've thought about that before, whoever taught any of us to drive, and it's like I just sort of knew. We
I
had
know.
the 20 acres up in New York, so we used to just drive the cars around when we were young.
I know my dad taught me, and I don't think Mom taught any of us at all.
We learned on a stick shift.
Yeah,
It was a standard car.
right. You couldn't have the automatic. That's not what you were going to learn on.
But Kendall worked at the farm up in New,
Oh,
York,
in New York.
too, so he knew,
Oh,
drove a lot
tractors
there,
and
tractors and Jeeps and stuff, because it was our, Mom's cousin?
Yes. Yeah.
I never really remember their relatives. that Mom's uncles had the Weldon Brothers farms, and then
Kendall worked
the
on that for
uncles'
years.
kids were running the farms at that time, and Kendall was go up and work at dairy farm when we go to New York in the
Cutting hay or
summers.
milking or
Everything, yeah.
everything.
In the summer times, we'd go up to New York, and then he'd go work at the farm. So
What, did you have pets? Did you have
dogs.
Always.
We had Fritz, was our
Olive.
German Shepherd, and then Olive was
Olive.
another German Shepherd we had.
Cats.
Always.
Cats.
Oh, we had Herb.
Always tigers.
Yeah, we had
Tiger.
Herb, who was a female dog.
That
Yeah.
was a stray when we first moved to Coweta, and we used to sneak it in at night, so Dad didn't know we had another dog.
Yeah, they'd stay on guard to make sure that it was okay. Dad would be sitting there reading his newspaper, listening to a radio and TV,
Sneak in the
and
dog.
you just walk right past him and go put the dog in the bedroom. And when Dad came, you just pull the cover up, and the dog would just stay completely still.
So we added a dog.
And that happened because the people who were coming over are the same ones that used to be at the orchestra with Kendall. And
We used to have gerbil. Didn't we have a gerbil we brought on the way out from, we moved it.
Yeah.
that was Tuesday.
But wasn't it a gerbil or a hamster?
Hamster.
That didn't, we had white mice.
We did, and that was one of the things Kendall always made sure that we would name the animal or rodent or whatever it was somehow to identify with AM radio.
Well, we had two turtles, I remember when we were young. They were AM and FM. The turtle names.
Yeah. We had a better chance of being able to keep it if it was actually named after something. But I remember Kendall with Herb.
Yeah, Kendall liked dogs. He always had dogs. He had extra dogs. Socks she was
Yes.
a dog. He had her after college when he was running our radio station out in Wagner. We had in the 80s. That's where Socks was around.
Yeah.
Soccer dog. She was good. And then he had at the end he had that extra dog. He was an extra dog, or he was a secondhand dog because he was just in the neighborhood, and he was somebody else's dog, but he
Just come
kept-
hang out with Kendall.
kept hung out and kept coming over and hanging out, and it ended up just being the extra dog. It's like it's a hand-me-down dog. It's like a secondhand dog. So he'd go buy secondhand or extra dog, and it was always there, but it wasn't really his dog. But
Yeah, he'd much rather take responsibility
Yeah.
for it than
Exactly.
Didn't worry about it.
Right.
Right, so the dog knew it was a safe place to come, get loving, and get fed.
Well, in high school, did he date much in high school? Was too busy doing other things?
Kelly?
They went out more as a group, seemed
Group,
like.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of group stuff. But I don't know, he didn't start dating seriously until college, really.
Well, in high school, what was he thinking his career goal would be? Did he know by that point?
I would say something in broadcasting.
Yeah.
It's just something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we went to ORU because Dad taught there. We started there at least. Some of us
Because it
did.
was tuition waiver.
Okay.
I think that was a big reason.
It was
in
big, yes.
Dad taking the job there, because 4 kids and tuition waiver.
Kendall was very mischievous, I guess you would say. And they would like fill garbage. Remember the garbage cans up with water and lean them up against the not air conditioner, elevator. So that when the next person
At the
opened
dorms.
up the elevator and then just got sprayed with.
Get in trouble at the dorms.
Yeah.
But no, at ORU, he was the station manager at the campus radio station. Worked his way up to that, the program director and all that stuff. And so he was doing that at college, doing radio, TV stuff.
And his major was
Communications.
Communications.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then when he graduated there, it was 83, we bought that radio station out in Wagner. And when Kendall graduated in 84, he came out and was the general manager of the radio station. And programmed it and did, all that. So
What was its call letters?
when we bought it, it was
KTA.
Well, it was KWOK, Wagner, Oklahoma. KWOK, Walkin' Wagner, 153, 15:30 a.m. So Walkin' Wagner on 153. But we changed the call letters to KTCR for Town and Country Radio. And it was the mix of music was country and adult contemporary, easy, soft rock. It was a decent mix. But AM radio in the 80s, when FM was taking off, and right under the shadow of Tulsa radio market, it was hard to get a foothold in. But
So your dad did that plus work at ORU? You did both? Well, I guess you guys helped.
Yeah, we did. Because we had the station, and Kendall and I did mornings for a while. Kendall did the DJ stuff, and I did the news. And then I helped my dad on the engineering side of stuff, and Kendall programmed it and did all that. And we built new studios and raised our power and new towers and transmitter and stuff. And and then Kendall moved their trailer in out by because we moved the studios out to the tower location, and then Kendall put a trailer in out there next to it too. So lived right at the station for a few years.
Did he have a handle? I don't know what you call it, but
What's his?
when he was a DJ, did he use his own name or use a different name or?
He mainly used his own name. I think he.
I'm just thinking of Venus Flytrap from WKRP.
Yeah. He
Did he have
mainly
some-
used his name. I think he did when he did overnights on KCFO in Tulsa. It was the Christian music station, 89.5. It's KVOO FM now. He did overnights a year and a half or something when he was in college in 81, 82. And he would do the traffic reports in the morning sometimes to fill in for people. I remember him doing that from the dorm room or from the house. He'd just call it in. Listen to the traffic report on KRMG and call it in on the other.
It worked.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, it was. He did that in radio, and then the radio station did all sorts of the stuff there, and then we had an opportunity to sell the radio station in '87, I think it was. And so Kendall came to Stillwater then to work on his master's. And I'd been down in Stillwater going to college since '85. So he came and lived with me down there.
So big brother followed little brother.
Yeah,
In that case.
it was nice because he complained a couple times that all the teachers were calling him my name. And he just said, okay, now, yeah, I went through high school that way. So,
And y'all lived together.
yeah. Yeah, Karlene had lived there first, had a trailer, and right where the Albertsons was built. I don't know what the grocery store is there now.
It's Homeland.
It's a
now.
Homeland now.
Mhm.
That was a trailer park. I don't know
Okay.
how long you've been in
And
Stillwater.
The freezer section was where we actually lived.
Yeah, it was right on the south side of that building. It was where the trailer was. And Karlene lived there when she was up there in college for a little bit, and then Kendall moved in there, and then I bought a house because I was working at for the Cablevision company doing the local advertising and stuff, doing all the automation on all the TV equipment for the local advertising and shooting the commercials. And so I bought a house, and Kendall moved in the house with me too after that. And he was going to OSU, working on his master's and teaching lab stuff for, production lab and stuff for freshman classes, as he was a grad student. And I just, through Clint Boone, who's the morning weather guy on Channel 2 here, I work over Channel 2 now. He said, oh, your brother was my lab instructor.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then also one of the other guys said he had lunch with a couple of his friends that work over at Channel 23, and they both said that they were students of Kendall's. So the legacy out there still, these people who were his students.
Well, that's neat too. So let's get a timeline in here. You went to OSU from when?
I went up there in '85. I took a couple years after high school and went to ORU for a semester or two and TJC, and then decided I better get serious about college. So I went up in '85 to Stillwater.
And graduated when?
'89.
With a degree in
Communication, radio, television, film, yeah.
And then Amy?
I went to ORU for 2 years, and then I went back to New York State and did Oneonta State University and finished in '85.
And then Karlene?
And I took my first year of college at OSU Stillwater. The second semester, I used to joke about it that the counselor called me in and said, I don't think this is for you. And so I quit going to OSU after the second semester. Kendall would help, try to help me do things. And just to not being able to understand it really easy, like something that comes easy to Nelson or Kendall. And if I learn the same thing, it's not easy for me. But Kendall would always help me try to do that. And then so did Nelson.
So what year would you have been at OSU?
86.
86, okay.
And stopped going in '87. And then it took me till 2006 to get my associate's degree. And then I did fast track stuff to get my bachelor's degree after that.
Well, there you go. You just keep plugging along.
But it was instilled, where people nowadays, if you say you don't want to go to college, fine, they're not going to send you. But we didn't have that opportunity.
Well, you took some courses for your master's too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I'm the dumb one in the family because I just have a bachelor's degree and she's got
I
a
have a
master's. And she
master's.
took master's. Mom has her master's. Dad had his PhD.
Kendall had his
and Kendall had
master's.
his master's. So I'm the dumb one.
So when did Kendall get his master's from OSU?
When did he get done? 90 maybe?
Okay.
91?
I can look in the
Yeah.
book if I have a period
Yeah.
to look at to see.
I'd have to look it up somewhere.
Mom might know.
Yeah.
When y'all were living together, who was the head of the household?
Well, I own the house, so
Okay.
he was.
Did he pay you rent?
Yeah,
He paid
yeah,
rent.
and it was actually pretty decent because he paid rent, but he was gone a lot because he had girlfriends. So, so, you know, I had extra room a lot of time. So,
Had he learned to do laundry and all of that, those sort of things while he was at ORU, I guess?
oh yeah,
We learned to do that at home.
yeah.
Okay, I should have asked that
We
first.
did. We learned at home how to do laundry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
We all
Yeah.
did chores. It's like, well,
Right.
it wasn't like, I mean, it's just stuff that has to be done
And you
to keep a
just did it.
household going.
Didn't
So.
have particular ones assigned to on a regular basis?
That reminds me of one thing that I kind of didn't cover back then. Kendall had to take the trash down when we lived in New York. We had a 3-story basically house, the bottom, and then the living,
Yeah,
and then
it was like a basement exposed on one side, and then the main floor, and then the upstairs. So.
and Kendall, I'm sure looking down on me today, he would deny it, but he had to take the trash down.
Down to the basement.
And in the basement, there was like a door, and it didn't have any lights in there at all. And so he would have me go down there with him to protect him. But he didn't say it was because of that, but he always needed me to go down because he was a big baby.
Well,
I'm sure now he's saying, oh, good grief, that's not right. And I'm like, yes, it is.
oh,
Have inside jokes?
I don't know.
Not really.
Yeah.
We'd like to welcome good friends of ours.
Leonard Skinner.
That was.
He went, that was, I don't know what.
That was on the beginning of the Leonard Skinner live album, Live at the Fox. I can't remember. I think that was the name of the album. It was a double
Well,
album.
he used,
But he played that
oh my.
clip because that was the beginning of the album.
Over
And
and
it was-
over and over.
So
and over.
He was on a cassette. He kept just how much to
he
rewind
had
it.
Nans.
Yeah.
And our grandmother, he would have that on the cassette, and they'd be sitting at the kitchen table, and he would play that over and
I'd
over
like to
and
welcome some
over.
friends of mine.
Leonard Skinner. And then there was
Hit
one
rewind, hit
time,
play again.
I think he pretty much always
Yeah.
had a tape recorder with him, and he had done something, and Mom said, I think that's rude, go to your room. So he taped that, and as she said, I think that's rude, go to your room. He was replaying that
Over and
the
over
whole way
and
up to his,
over.
I think that's rude, go to your room.
Yeah.
Be the cassette, you have to get to work.
Are you needing
I
to
got a
go?
meeting at 2 on Skype or Zoom or whatever, so I can just go do it in there. They changed it from the other day. But
So he graduated from OSU early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And then did he go to work for OSU at that point?
well, he was working. I think he went over and was working at the ETS at the same time as he was in school, and I know he bought that house in 91 or 92. Well, I bought my house in 90, and he lived there a couple years. So maybe it was about 93 or 94 he bought his house. So that was probably about the time he actually graduated. It might have been a couple of years. I think he took longer just because he was working. And because at some point, too, he was working at there was a club, there was a hotel, and they had a bar, and he DJ'd out there. And he DJ'd down at 93.7 when they were, classic rock back in the 90s. He did some voiceover stuff for the TV commercials that I was doing over at cable, and then he started working at OSU at Educational Television. Ended up working in the master control area, shading cameras, rolling tape on stuff, making sure satellite feeds were going as scheduled for all the educational television stuff, and see, now I got your problem. What I was thinking.
See, I was already moved back by then, so
Yeah.
I can't fill it in.
But yeah, so he was doing that. Oh, and then he started doing the radio network stuff because Joe Riddle was doing it full time for OSU Radio Network, but he was looking for somebody to fill in because Joe Riddle worked up here at KRMG, his morning show producer. So sometimes the schedules wouldn't work and he couldn't do a game or something. So he got Kendall to fill in because he was looking for somebody, and somebody said, "Oh, go talk to this guy. He's done radio, TV." So Kendall started filling in, doing those, and then they started splitting the shifts and doing like every other game and doing, Kendall would do all the coaches shows and stuff because Kendall would do the TV version of coaches shows at educational television, and then they'd do the radio coaches show for the radio network. And Joe didn't have to drive over to Stillwater and get back late and work early at KRMG, so that helped him out. So Kendall picked up more and more of those, and he was doing a lot of the radio stuff.
When you say doing the show, what would that be?
That would be taking the equipment, setting up the microphones, the headsets for the announcers and coach, and setting up the line to the network, the network line to get the signal back. And then during the show, you'd time the segments and, give the announcers their cards of what commercials to read, or intros and outros, and you time them into the breaks and out of the breaks. So you're producing, they call it producer engineer. So you would mix the audio, make sure the signal went back to the network, and then to help time the show for the announcers. So at a football game, you would get there a few hours early, set up your equipment, check your lines to the locker room so that for the post game, you'd be able to get the signal up from the locker room, and then connect your lines to the network so everything was good there, and then set it all up for the announcers, and then you'd have the play-by-play and the color announcer, and then you'd have spotters and stuff that were in there. Yeah, so.
And then you would do ESPN stuff.
Horse races.
Yeah, he did.
That's where that all started, I think, was.
Yeah, because he worked with Winter Communications here in Tulsa. Had the horse racing contract for ESPN. They produced all the horse racing stuff out of Tulsa. So Kendall worked freelance doing that, and he did audio on most of the events, and ended up doing the wireless mics, the RF audio for all the horse racing package. They would put microphones on the jockeys, and so they could interview the winning jockey at the end of the race. So they put 3 or 4 mics on the ones they thought would win, and then at the end of the race, they would, they could interview the jockey. They'd have a little earpiece in them and everything, so that oh, you just won the race, blah blah blah. What were you thinking? So
He did that.
They did the wireless mics for horse racing.
Did he do any betting?
No, actually, he never
Sure.
bet. No, he said actually he never bet. Some guys did. He said some guys did and lost all the money they would have made that weekend. He goes, "No, I never bet." But he knew the races. Because he'd talk about the horses and stuff just from being around it all. So, and then he would do football games and things, do audio for football games and basketball games, and that's usually when I'd get called in to help out and do the radio network or something, because it's like, I have a TV gig, can you come do the radio one? Because I think he'd made more at the TV one, so I'd go work the radio one. So.
Had he been interested in sports before that? I mean, in high school, did he even go to the game?
Oh, we went to the games with the football team,
So
with the
bit.
band, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Do you need to
let me
go?
go hop on this.
So he could explain what he was doing, so he did that much.
Well, that's good, because I couldn't explain that.
Yeah, I understand a little bit of it just from listening, and you can assume some of the other, but don't know. So at what point, you mentioned Ashley, that's his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go into that while he's?
Sure. Ashley was a big brother, big sister. That's how it,
She ended
her
up,
becoming part of the family. They would have big brother, big sister visits, and she had had a really hard upbringing, something totally out of her control. And then when she started doing the big brother, big sister thing, they started considering if adoption would be possible. And it was. I don't know how many years this was away, but she
was in her, how old was she when she was adopted?
was like 6
Okay.
6 or 7 when she was adopted. And Kendall would bring her up to ETS sometimes to help, or because she enjoyed and he enjoyed
Being,
showing that part of himself to others. You know, that something that looks so complicated, you know, is just so simple and easy for him. And they had big brother, big sister probably for 2 years, maybe. And then close to when the plane crash occurred, their adoption went through. And after that, very briefly after that, maybe 4 months after the adoption went through, Kendall's wife at the time went to India.
to do some soul searching. Soul searching, is that what you could call it?
Sure, that's the nice way of saying it. But she left Kendall taking care of Ashley. The whole 6 weeks she was gone from the house. So Kendall and Ashley, you know, looking back now, I'm so grateful that he had that time with Ashley, because they had the opportunity and the time because of what I thought was selfishness from his wife. But if she hadn't gone to India, Kendall would have never had that bonding time with her. And so when Patty was gone, they would eat whatever, normal food, pizza and
Kentucky
sandwiches,
Fried Chicken,
Kentucky
Taco
Fried
Bell,
Chicken, anything
McDonald's.
like that.
Good stuff.
That's right.
Exactly. And so he had that opportunity to play a big role in her life in such a short amount of time. I don't know.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah, her name was Ashley, spelled Ashlee.
E.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the adoption came through. Did she become a Durfey?
She
Did you
did.
take the last
She
name
did.
Durfey?
Yeah.
Yep.
And what's she doing today?
Now she is a mother. She has 4, I say babies. They're not all babies, but
The oldest is probably 6,
yeah,
and the youngest is 6 months.
It's maybe
Yeah.
babies.
probably, yeah. So she's got several babies.
Four.
Stay-at-home mom, right?
Mhm.
Stays in touch. then.
And she's a very, very good mother. Yeah, we go see her on occasion, and the biggest ordeal for her right now is she doesn't trust driving anywhere outside of Edmond. You know, she just wants to stay in that one area. So we have to go down to see her because she's not willing to drive. And that's her choice. But yeah, Kendall,
So she would be, if I do my early 30s,
I
yeah.
would say so.
How old's Nadine?
29, my daughter.
Yeah, so probably mid
She might
30s, maybe 34,
33,
Okay.
34.
33. I never really considered.
so
How
at
long?
the time of the crash, how old was she?
She was 6. Right?
I don't know.
She was 6, I believe, 6 years old. And
About 20 years ago, so that would make her 20.
She's older than 26. She's older than Nadine,
okay,
So maybe 10-ish, 10-ish,
10-ish. Mom would probably know, but yeah,
10-ish. Okay.
yeah.
it's crazy how time
Time
can
flies.
pass
Just goes fast.
so fast when
Yeah,
like this, trying to think back of what year this was, or
yeah. I bet she's 32, 31, 32,
Okay.
I would say.
That gives us enough of a
Right,
timeline to.
yeah,
to-
she has 4 beautiful babies, and she's a really good mom.
So had Kendall planned on having more children?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. They had talked about having a baby, and then the big brother, big sister, and everything kind of just snowballed into that was their child.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making up for someone else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you were to close your eyes and picture him, what would you hear and see? Did he have a
His-
signature saying or?
His mischievous smile. You can see that in pretty much any picture that you see of him, that he was mischievous. I mean, he put his family first. He was a Christian, and he and his wife had just adopted Ashley when all of this happened. So, but to close my eyes and think of him right now, I see him with that big big smile that he had, like looking like he's hiding something for some reason.
And he was the type too, as you say, I think one of the last times he was sitting on my back porch in Cherry Valley teaching my son how to tie his shoes.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and he was one too to procrastinate. He'd
I'm
be,
gonna take a shower.
he'd have his underwear and he'd swing him. I mean, these are the things he'd swing his underwear around in his finger. I'm gonna go take a
For
shower.
like an hour, he would just,
I'm gonna go take a
Put it off,
shower. And
put
he
it off.
just, and then probably an hour and a half later, he'd go, okay, I'm gonna go take a shower now. So just yeah, but I think the last I saw him was Cherry Valley.
Tying the shoes.
yeah, and the last time, I'm sure Mom will go into more detail, but it was, I didn't see him Thanksgiving, and then for Christmas, the weather was
Probably miserable.
bad, so we chose not to go, or not to come down to Stillwater to where he lived. We would just put that off because it was too icy or too much snow or something. And then when you look back and you don't have that ability to be able to say, no,
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
I want to change my answer to that. So I was doing my clinical rotation with EMSA when this happened.
So how did you hear? Do you want to go into
Sure.
into that day just a little bit?
Yeah, I had gone on 2 calls, and there were 2 men on the truck with me. And they were laughing, cutting up, joking, we were just having like somebody that I would know and just have a good night doing whatever we were doing. And we got to St. Francis ER, and this was on our 2nd call that we had gone on. And once I got there, maybe 15 minutes later, I realized that nobody was really acting the way they were before. And the next thing I know, there was a lady named Kathy that tapped me on the shoulder and she said, whatever you brought with you, get off the rig and come with me. And immediately I thought, I'd diagnosed somebody or killed somebody or did something that was,
You were in trouble.
yeah. And then once I got my stuff, she said, you need to call your mom. And I said, is it Fulton? Which was, he was
Mom's husband.
he was a step, but I would never call him a stepfather. He was amazing. He made Mom happy. And it was just hard. But I got my stuff and she told me I needed to call Mom. And I said, is it Fulton? And she said, you just need to call her. So I call, and you'll see Mom's pretty just straight to the point about stuff. She said, Kendall died. And I said, what? What are you talking about? She said, well, where are you? And I said, I'm in the back of a ambulance, and I can't really be talking to you right now. And then she said that he had been killed in the OSG plane crash. But I said, who called you? How'd you find out? And she said, well, people have just started calling the house. And so the IMSA lady told me she would drive me home, and I was like, I don't need anybody to drive me home. I'm totally fine. And by the time I got out to Mom's house, probably less than an hour later, they already had the pictures of everybody on talking about it. And I remember Mom sitting in her living room and her hands just on her knees like that and watching the same thing over and over and over. And I didn't, in my mind, I knew it was real, but I kept saying it wasn't because we didn't get a specific official phone call from anybody. They called his wife once who got the official phone call. So I remember that was huge because Mom she was as white as a ghost, but she just kept watching the same like news loop over and over and over again. So.
And Nelson called me,
Okay.
because it was, I don't know what time in the morning for me, being in upstate New York, but he called me and said the plane didn't make it back. And I'm going, okay, because I wasn't
The
aware
plane
Kendall
where?
wasn't, we kept in touch, but I didn't know his every move. And Nelson said, well, the plane didn't make it back. I said, what plane didn't make it back? He said, the one Kendall was on. I said, oh, and he said, they said it went down. So then I could turn on the news and you could see, and I could still, as I see it now, that they had buses lined up to try to block the crash scene. So, and it was snowy and you could, that's what I can visualize is where the buses were and the
Right.
parts of the plane. And so Nelson had called me to say that he hadn't made it back.
Because Nelson did, news for a lot of these stations, and he actually found out about it because one of the news stations wanted to hire him.
He was working the Super Bowl at that time.
To cover the story of the plane crash.
So he was, wherever he was working the Super Bowl and got a call saying, hey, we had a plane crash, can you go work it?
They didn't bother to think that it might be.
They probably didn't know at that point, right.
So it was just, there's no easy way to be told anything like that. But the image of just the same
It's
thing.
media, they just
over
play it over and over and over, and they want to draw people's
And that's what
heartstrings.
they've done now, 20 years later. And they still show the picture of them digging through the plane.
The crash. That's what they do.
And I got so frustrated with them because I'd never thought about that before. But
That's media.
Yeah.
Media.
They wanna
they want to sell it. They want to keep you. And 20 years later, or 15 years later, they were still showing the same picture. Instead of saying, just a OSU logo or...
That's not gonna get people to watch it though. They want...
Right. And that,
Sensationalism.
That's what it is.
for years, every time I would call them and beg them to please. We want them remembered, but I had even said I'd rather go without them remembering than to watch that and the hurt and how bad it was for Mom. It was bad for all of us, but for Mom to have to see that over and over and over was really frustrating.
Did you hop on a plane
I did.
pretty quickly?
I did. And that was a whole experience within itself because upstate New York, January, bad weather.
Yes.
The very first plane I got on, we couldn't take luggage on the plane. They said, okay, we have enough fuel because it was a small plane. I get on the plane and they're looking out the window. We had no lights on the outside, so it was like, and I told them when I first got there why I was flying, and they said, oh, you don't want to go through bad weather. I went, no, I don't want to go through bad weather. But yeah, with no gas, you can't bring your luggage on, we can't overweight the plane, and we have no, they called the stewardess, and she's looking out the windows, we had no outside lights as we're flying. It was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so I got on and I came and I was there for a week for the memorial services.
Memorial service.
Yep.
Do you recall anything particular about that?
It was
Is it
huge.
just a blur?
It was well organized. I remember going, it was after when we went to the memorial in Colorado, but I think they took care of the families very well
They
for
are,
the memorial service. It was,
and that continues. They're still really good.
They
to
are. It was
us.
very well organized, but just lots and lots of people.
Yeah, lots of people. I was
Lots
there.
of people. It was, yeah.
I remember it like yesterday too.
Yeah.
And I can remember people coming up to hug you, but they were all like faceless people because his picture in my mind was there forever.
Right. Right.
But to still not really recognize or be sure that it was all real.
Mm.
So that was hard.
And that public grief versus private is
Right.
And yeah,
Right.
hard.
I mean, it was great that so many people are aware of it and remember it.
I
But
remember somebody came to Nelson's house, the one he spoke of, with the Oklahoma flag and presented it to Mom.
Flew over the Capitol or something.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Yep, when we were there in Stillwater.
but that's about, I mean, I don't really think of much more.
Which one, or how did y'all decide, or who decided on the inscription that's on the memorial?
The
You know?
memorial that's here in,
Buyers. We all did.
yeah, we
We
do.
ran it by each other.
I mean, you only had so many, you can only use so many
Right,
words.
and we
to-
just
Right.
went to the memorial in Colorado when we were up there a couple days ago.
I haven't been there yet, so.
Very nice.
How
And
was,
it's-
how was it this time? Or was it a little different than
Well, I've only been one other time when they did the
dedication?
dedication. So you really couldn't see close up, so now it was just us, so it's very nice.
Yeah.
They did a nice job.
And it's nice, like, when we stop there, there's, people go by there, like, on a
Mementos.
daily basis. There's
Mementos left.
little teddy bears or OSU t-shirts, OSU
The,
hats.
the medallions from the race, there's 10 of those hanging on the fence.
And it's, people remember, which is amazing because after so many years that people are still going out there and leaving their memories there for others to see. It was really cool.
I think that event, the 10 families are connected to OSU sports history forever.
Mhm.
Because of,
You said, just like I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is though. It's
We appreciate you doing this.
it's been a learning experience
sure.
too.
I'm sure.
And you mentioned the run. Have you come back to attend the run?
I've done it a couple times back here,
Mhm.
and now that they've done it virtual, my daughter and I have.
Do it.
Since they've done it, I think we've done it 2 years virtually.
I think this year they've moved it. It's in August this
It
year.
is, but I think there's still a virtual one, so I can
yeah.
do that back in New York.
Hopefully you can find someplace a little cooler.
Yeah.
in August in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that won't happen,
Exactly.
but New York it will be.
I think I was reading they started that in 2007, so a few years after. It took a little while, I guess, to get it up and running or whatever.
But
And then they do scholarships.
They do. There's
they
a
do.
Kendall Durfey Scholarship, is that what they call it? And that's April, they,
Present that. It's not only him. There's the memorial fund
yeah, not sure.
like where they take all the money that they get from people who have enrolled or signed up for the race.
And they do scholarships through that
And
as
they
well.
do scholarships through that. They generally announce the amount of money and give it to the counseling
Center.
center here at OSU. Well, not here, but Stillwater.
I think that would be something Kendall would be proud of.
Oh, he
too.
would
Oh,
be.
yeah.
He would be.
Absolutely.
Did he have a particular item that he wore all the time, like a hat or?
Flannel
Yes,
shirts.
flannel shirt
Flannel shirts.
and a t-shirt with a pocket.
Yes.
Always. That Kendall's memorial service in Coweta,
We
we
all
all
wore
wore.
flannel shirts. He had quite the wardrobe of flannel shirts.
Always. I don't think I can think of ever a time that he didn't have one or the other on.
Right. Any of his pictures, it's a flannel shirt or the t-shirt with the
Yes.
pocket.
When he left ORU, you were required to
Shirt
wear
and tie.
a shirt and tie when he went there. And after that, when he was done with ORU,
No shirt and tie.
never. Not even his wedding. He had a button-up shirt on, but no necktie.
He had a ceremonial cut.
There you go. That was that.
Yeah.
No, I can understand that too. I mean, did the girls have to wear? When you went? Did you have to wear hose and a dress?
You had to wear a skirt.
Had to wear a skirt. Didn't have to necessarily hose.
No
it
hose,
had-
but you had to wear a skirt. Yes.
Did that go out the door too as soon as
Yes.
it could?
Yes, it did. Yes.
Yeah.
Did he have trouble separating when it was time to move out of home into the dorm, or was he just ready for that? Ready for that venture.
I think he was beyond ready, but I think he would have been a lot happier if it was someplace other than somewhere where he has to wear a shirt and tie.
And you had curfews, and you had
All of that.
like an 11 p.m. curfew. You had to be in your room, and weekends it could be 12 o'clock, and
Yeah.
He could do the radio from his room though.
that you could do. To do your aerobics every week, and ORU turn in your aerobic points weekly.
Yeah, they had to do exercises.
We did.
They were mandatory.
Wednesday, Friday, we did chapel. You had assigned seats, and you had to make sure you were
Signed
there.
in. and-
Sundays, you were supposed to go to church and not hide in your closets or go down to the donut shop down the road.
Right.
He liked camping in Colorado.
Yes, and the plane crash where it actually happened was not very far mileage away from where he camped all the time. So,
Yeah.
If he could have chosen where he was going to go
Yeah.
at the end, that would have
absolutely.
been at the top of the
Yeah.
list at least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have to get back in here and talk like
That water, that like,
Went all over you.
it just like, yeah, it's got like a,
You got a shower.
I did.
oh, I can see that, yes.
Did he ever wear baseball hats, that sort of thing, or no hat?
I mean, like he was out
Occasionally.
camping, he would put a hat on after, a few days of being out camping.
We talked about flannel shirts and t-shirts with the,
Yeah, and either if he didn't wear a baseball cap, he wore the,
He had his hiking hat, it was a brimmed hat.
the bucket hats, they now call them.
No, do they? I don't
It's a
know.
bucket
bucket hat.
Bucket hats.
Yeah, I mean, not really a cowboy hat, but, more of just a outdoors hat,
Yeah, they're
just
back in style.
for keeping the sun off your neck and stuff, hiking hat. So.
Did he have a nickname, or did any of you have nicknames?
I think so.
Not really.
Kend.
How old was Ashley when
I can call him
Kendall
Nest.
passed?
We were thinking
Yeah,
10-ish.
9 or 10, yeah.
How old is she now? That's a test.
She wouldn't
About
want you
20
to say
years
that.
later, 20 years more.
So we're saying like 31,
Yeah.
32.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close enough.
No, though we did a lot of traveling and camping, like when when he worked at the radio station in Wagner, and then I was in Stillwater, we had an old van, and we'd go camp, go on trips.
Came up to New York with that.
Yeah.
And then
Go up and
his,
visit Amy.
A
Motorcycle
VW
that you
van?
Well,
No,
not one of them. One of
this
them was
was-
just a gray.
Yeah, this was an old Dodge, 69 Dodge van. There was just primer paint on it.
Yeah, and they
Bought out of a junkyard and got running again. And
excuse me just for a minute.
actually, the guy who ran the junkyard there in Coweta knew we would like it. And when he got it in, he called us and said, "Hey, I got this van here. You guys might want it." So we.
it looked rough,
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it was only like 13, 14 years old. when
but it was a
we
rough
got it.
looking.
But we never painted it.
Looked a little suspicious.
Yeah, and we fixed it over and had 4 captain's chairs in it and a little bed in the back so we could
Cruise on.
go on trips. And we would always leave out on a trip in the middle of the night because it was so hot and no air conditioning in that old van. So we would leave at 10 at night and drive away from Oklahoma and get out of the heat. By the time it was, sun up the next day, we were out of the heat.
Could you do your own mechanical?
Yeah, we rebuilt the whole van.
Well, that helps, that if you've got an older
Yeah.
one.
Well, that was one of the things for me. Whatever car I bought, it had to be a slant 6, wasn't it?
yeah,
So they
'cause
could fix it.
we had all
So
the
Kendall and
parts, 'cause
Nelson could fix a car if it.
Because that first car he got it had a slant 6 engine in it,
And they knew how to
Chrysler
fix it.
slant 6 engine in it because it's an old Dodge Dart. So at that point it was like, okay, we got all these parts because we bought old parts and engines and parts, and so it was like, then I had a van before that had a slant 6 in it, and Amy got a car had a slant 6 in it, so we all had vehicles that
So they could fix it.
so we could swap around parts when we needed to. That was another story that I'm sure Mom will tell you. We at one point when Kendall was in college, he had a Plymouth Duster, 1970 Plymouth Duster, and that had a slant 6 in it, and it was burning oil and stuff, but it wasn't awful. It was still usable. But he found in the Thrifty Nickel, it used to be, that car at one ads, back before online and all this, because it was in the 80s, early 80s. It was a Dodge Duster or Dodge Demon, which is the same thing as a Plymouth Duster, but it had a slant 6 in it, but it had mag wheels on it and all this, but it had been wrecked in the back. And it was cheap. The engine was good. He went and looked at it, the engine was good. So we bought that. And about the same time, my van, it wasn't the same van we traveled around in, but I had a van in college, or in high school, and the engine blew on it. The rod blew through the side of the engine, so we towed that back to the house. So we had that sitting there. So we had the big slant 6 swap weekend. So where we took the one that had the good engine in it and put that into Kendall's Duster. So he had a car with a good engine out of the wrecked car, and then he put the mag wheels on his car, so it looked cool. And then I took the engine that was burning oil and put it into the van that had the broken block, so the van would run again, so I could sell it. But it,
Mechanically inclined, you guys.
and then all those cars sat in the front yard at our house in Coweta for way too long, and Mom got very upset that all the cars were out.
Like a
Junk
junkyard.
cars all around the house. She got very upset with us, so we had to get rid of them all, move them out. But yeah, we always had parts for all those cars around, so we kept doing slant 6s for a long time.
Did they teach you, or did you want to learn how to? Wasn't your thing?
That wasn't my thing. No, I knew how to check the air pressure and check the oil and put gas in, but that was about the extent.
But we worked on them enough to keep them running.
But you chose not to go into mechanical engineering.
No, we worked on cars as long as we, until we could afford to hire somebody to work on cars for us. I still do some stuff, and we used to. Kendall had his house out in Perkins and had a nice garage out there. We'd always change our own oil and do all that type of stuff.
Well, nowadays with the computerized engines,
It makes it too tough.
You can't do too much of that.
Yeah, he had moved to having Hondas by then, and you'd change the oil on that and drive it. That's all you have to do with a Honda. You don't have to work on them anymore. So,
Heaven Hondas?
yeah.
I hadn't heard that before.
You moved into Hondas, so yeah, they stay good.
They do.
But yeah, because I think he had his pickup truck. He had bought a big Dodge diesel pickup truck a couple of years before he died to be able to go to Colorado camping, because he was towing he had a camper on the back of the truck and then had a trailer behind it to have his four-wheelers on and stuff to go riding the trails up in Colorado and stuff. So
Yeah, that sounds like fun too.
needed something that had enough power to go up there, so he bought one of those.
And get out of the Oklahoma heat for a little while.
Yeah, I'd go up there like every summer. Then he used to do the motorcycle trips back in the 80s and 90s. We had Fred from high school who rode motorcycle, and then Rick and Kendall and Rick went out to Arizona and desert one summer.
Did you ride with Kyle too?
And then that's it. They met our friend Kyle, and Kendall had bought a BMW after that first couple of road trips. He ended up buying a BMW 950 K95 or an R95S, I think it was, that he found, wasn't online back then, but probably given thrifty.
Probably thrifty.
Yeah. And because he wanted a better, nicer riding motorcycle for road trips, and I think actually up in New York, I think it was Ottman's. I think
Chris?
it was Debbie's husband had a
Oh,
BMW.
Gary.
Yeah. Our neighbors, Amy's neighbors up in New York, well, the sister, they didn't live there, but I think he had a BMW. It was how Kendall first saw it, and he was like telling him how smooth the road and stuff, because Kendall had like an old Honda 650 and it wasn't that comfortable on road trips. So he bought that BMW and then started traveling more and went to the BMW Owners Association rally up in Colorado and met Kyle, who's been a lifelong friend since then. Kyle was from Enid and was up in Colorado on his motorcycle trip at the BMW camp out motorcycle trip, and didn't have gas money to get home. So Kendall said, "I'll ride with me. I'll make sure your gas is full and you get back."
That
to
would have been
Oklahoma."
Kendall.
So then Kyle's been around ever since. And he had a BMW. Kyle for a long time just had a motorcycle, no car even. He'd ride in the middle of winter and everything else. That was just his vehicle.
Make a friend for life.
Yes.
Yep, and then so Kyle and Kendall would go on trips later, and then Andy Rainwater, who's in Stillwater, he had old BMW with sidecar on it. You might have seen it around Stillwater back in the 80s and 90s. Andy was an old hippie from way back that landed in Stillwater. He was from Alaska, and he landed in Stillwater in the 70s and stayed. I think he said he stopped in Stillwater because there was a tornado, and he had stopped to help. He got work just fixing up stuff and stayed. Ended up living in Stillwater, and so Kendall and him used to go ride too. They went on trips out to New Mexico and Arizona.
They definitely preferred the outdoors, whether
He
it was
did.
on the back
Yes.
of the cycle or
Yes.
camping.
Yeah.
Did he fish, or was it more hiking or
Yeah.
ATVs.
Yeah,
ATVs?
and hiking and stuff, motorcycle, ATVs, and hiking, and just taking pictures and
So he could he would cook.
yeah,
at
yeah, little
least
cook stove and stuff. Yeah, not really just over the fire.
bacon and eggs and hamburgers and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just a lot of trips like that we did in college in the van. We went to Las Vegas. We went to Colorado. We went to Oregon one summer. We went up to Minnesota.
Just the two of you, or did all four of you?
Yeah, just-
You didn't get to.
Kendall and I, and then I went to Colorado. I think Rick and
UB.
yeah, we had a couple other people go along.
UB.
Yeah, so.
Hmm. There were
There was
always
usually 3 or 4 of us, and like we said, we took it up to see Amy multiple times, and we load our, at that time, 90-year-old grandmother
In the back.
to ride with us to Brooks.
Brooks barbecue
and
chicken. Oneonta, New York.
and she loved On Tap,
Oh,
the music,
The band.
the band that they had. She would
In high
sit
school.
in the middle of the living room with them playing the music just as loud and hard as they could.
Yeah, because they practice in the living room.
And she always wanted to be part of that. And
Whatever group.
Mainly played a lot of cover Leonard Skinner songs. That was mainly a Leonard Skinner cover band.
right.
So whose mother was she? Your mom's mother or
Yeah.
your dad's mother? Your mom's mother?
Mom's
Yeah.
mom. And
She was cool. She was cute.
Yeah, she came and stayed with us
Winters.
most of the winters. Come down from New York. So
Her actual name was Jessie, but the band, I don't know how
Susie
they
Q.
got calling her Susie Q. Where'd that come from?
Wade, friend in high school, Wade.
So was there a singer or was it just a
Yeah,
more instrumental?
Kelly?
Dave Hetherington and Kelly Denton sang.
And then would they get paying gigs?
I don't know, maybe played at the VFW or something for, a little bit of money, but
More of
nothing real.
At-home
Yeah.
band.
And when you guys went camping, Kendall, and you guys would take your stuff with you and all be around the campfire
Yeah, play around the campfires.
still singing Leonard Skinner songs.
I can't think of a few of those. What would
Freebird.
Freebird.
Okay, I know that one.
Give me 3 steps.
Yep.
Okay.
Those are about the only ones I know.
Yeah. So those were
That's my generation. I should know that, but
the band days.
And Kendall told me my hamster's name was Tuesday, and Tuesday's gone. He
Tuesday
told
died,
me
yeah.
he wrote the song,
Tuesday died
About
on the way to Oklahoma
Right.
from New York.
Right.
and then I found out later that no, he didn't.
Tuesday's gone with the wind.
I never even realized that was a real song until probably 10 years after the hamster died.
so that was one of his favorite bands. What was his favorite
Oh,
foods?
yeah.
Some of his favorite foods.
Mexican,
Yeah.
El Tapatio, or wherever
Yeah, we
that
used
is
to
that we
we'd go
would go
eat
eat.
there in Stillwater a lot when that opened
Mexican.
up. Yeah.
But he was a total meat person. And when he was married, his wife was
Vegetarian.
all organic, vegetarian,
Opposites
didn't even
attract. Huh?
she didn't even want to touch the meat he was cooking for himself. 'cause
And he didn't like instant coffee. He came to New York once and I didn't have a coffee pot. He would not drink instant coffee. He went and bought me a coffee pot that day because that was not happening.
That's hilarious.
Black coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of the business. If you work radio or TV, if you don't drink coffee, something's wrong with you.
And you don't put stuff in it.
Right.
Just black.
Don't have to smoke though anymore, do you?
No.
It wasn't part. You didn't have to do that too.
Yeah, that wasn't part of it.
Just, like I call it truck stop coffee, just, not this Starbucks stuff, but real coffee. Folgers. But
One thing that I don't know what was said that triggered my mind, but pick a song and he and you both would know the intro, how many seconds of intro you had before it sent you had to queue up. And I remember that
just from radio days.
you and
yeah.
Kendall and stuff would say, okay, there's a 32-second intro, and I was like, what? And
Yeah, because you'd always know that from radio, because you'd know how much you talk over the beginning of a song and know where the out points are, so it sounds right, musically. So.
right.
And if you needed a bathroom break, you'd put on American Pie.
Right, a long song.
Long
Yeah,
song.
exactly.
Yeah, there were 3 long songs that anybody who was listening would know that's why they were on. Because
What were the other? I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking. I know. I was thinking American Pie was one of the longest.
Yeah.
Longest
no,
band
and
out there.
Freebird has a really long segment at the end of it. What is it,
Yeah,
4?
it's, it
The whole
jams on
song
the
was
live
11
version.
minutes,
Yeah.
and then the live version had I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes of the guitar playing.
They probably did it. Name that tune where they.
Yeah, exactly. I can name that in 3 notes. We'll have to try that sometime and see how much you remember.
I don't remember.
Nor do I.
No, but musically,
Or do you
Kendall was,
care?
he had a lot of Leonard Skinner and stuff like that in the 70s, 80s, but then, I don't know, he had a lot of, he'd find cool stuff. He had a lot of now I can't think of the name. Little Feat and stuff like that. He was always up on buying the new stuff. Robbie Robertson albums, I remember he had a couple of those. And then, because that was from the band from, the 70s, but Robbie Robertson put out a couple albums in the 90s, and he picked back up on those. Peter Gabriel, he got into that stuff in the 90s pretty good. And
Yeah.
Some of that type of stuff.
I remember when I lived with him that one summer before going to Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
When we first got the CD player and kept playing Guns N' Roses.
Over and over and over and over.
Always had a really good home stereo. Yeah, we had it set up so we had 4 speakers in the corner, so it was all at you from every. But see, when you only had a turntable, you couldn't get it that loud because the acoustic would feed back through the needle. You can only get it so loud. So when CD players came out, you wouldn't get acoustic feedback. So
you could have them
Then you
just
could
as
turn it
loud
on,
as
yeah.
you wanted them.
And what was Mom doing during all of this?
Well, this
She was not there.
Later.
This was at his own place.
His
So.
Yeah.
What did he have favorite movie genres? Did he like science fiction
The
or
Blues Brothers.
Comedies.
comedies?
Yeah, Blues Brothers was a big hit for all of us.
Yeah.
It was just a funny movie.
Me too.
But yeah, more comedies than anything else. I think most of us are that way. I think.
What was his dream job?
I think he was doing it.
I think what he was doing was his. I don't think he ever anticipated on not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he had a university job, which was stable, get health insurance and retirement and all that, and was able to do the side work, the horse racing and the
For extra money and
radio network stuff, so.
Did he enjoy traveling with the team?
Yeah,
Did he like that?
and he liked working the coaches' shows and interacting with coaches and with Coach Sutton. They always got along great. It was cool to be able to do that because I filled in a couple times doing the coaches' show where you'd be like setting up on Gallagher back then, as practice was going on. And you were setting up because coach was going to come over right after practice and do the show. So you get to see how practice really goes, not how practice is supposed to be for the media or something.
Yep.
So it's really good to see that. And then, Coach Sutton knew you fairly well, knew Kendall a lot better from doing those shows and stuff. And I think like that, same with the football coaches and stuff, because you interacted with them in the shows and you knew them at a different, you interacted with the teams differently than, because you weren't really with the team, but you weren't really just a fan. You were associated with the team. So it was kind of a neat thing because I did that more because I did a lot of work with ESPN in the last 15 years or so, and it was that same sort of thing where you get to know the coaches. They know you're not just some weird fan wanting to get to know them, but you're not really one of their athletes either. So it's it's a different way to know them, and you're not really the press because you're more the tech guy. So it's so they're not scared to, they don't want to say something wrong to you because you're the press and it might get printed or something. So
Do you have to promise not to share if they do say
well,
something?
you just never do, and they know that. So yeah,
There's a code.
right, and you never ask for autographs and stuff. So they know that, and you know that, and
Not even one?
no. No, I've been in lots of situations where it'd be nice to have a couple of autographs.
Yes.
But no.
Tyler Hatch, you stood there with me for like an hour outside of the men's dressing rooms to get a picture and a signature from Tyler Hatch.
I don't remember.
And I remember you saying that as a person in the news or media, Kendall had a lot of different times had to tell people, no, it's not something we do. It's just, you don't do it. I mean,
Yeah, that way, you're just
One of them, kind of.
right.
You wouldn't be asked to do it again, or you
Right.
wouldn't come back. You
Right,
wouldn't
it
get the
is. It's,
second
Right.
job.
it's like an unspoken code type thing. Yeah,
it's kind of like a bro code, but didn't matter if you were a bro or what.
So if you traveled with the team on the plane a time or two,
I did.
so you would have known probably Bill Tiggins and,
Yeah, Bill.
and Denver.
Worked with
Oh,
Bill.
yeah.
Talked with Denver quite a bit. I had taken some flying lessons in the 80s, so it was always neat because like first time I went to fill in on a road game for Kendall, it was like I flew commercially to, I can't remember what town it was, one of the Big 12 schools. But I was like, well, what do I do when I get there? It's just go find Denver, because I'd met him before. Just go find Denver or Bill, and they'll get you into the right where you go on the road. Because I'd just done them at Gallagher and stuff locally, so, or the football stadium. But so I went and I get there and Bill and Denver, I think, were sitting there talking. So boom, I was in. And then flying back was with Denver, and I think maybe Kendall had told him I'd taken some flying lessons or something. So Denver was showing me how everything worked and showed me the navigation, and it was pretty cool. I remember flying back from Iowa State, and it was overcast and foggy and everything else, and you couldn't see anything, and it was all instruments. And Denver was like, yeah, he's showing me the navigation beacons and stuff, and goes, yeah, we're going to break through the cloud deck right about now, and the runway's going to be right there. Boom, boom, there it is. There's the Stillwater runway. it's like right on where we're supposed to be.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that's above my.
Mine too.
It was cool.
Mine too.
But that was fun with Denver. And then another time I flew, that was one of the times I flew commercially out, and Bill Tiggins had met Denver at Wiley Post. So we came back to Stillwater with the team, dropped the team off, and then Denver flew Bill and I to Wiley Post, parked the plane back, and then Bill drove me over to Will Rogers to pick up my car to come back. So that was kind of fun. That was coming back from, I think, Texas A&M.
So that enabled you to swap stories with Kendall too.
Yeah.
If you've done similar things and similar trips.
Yeah, it was always fun going to do those games. I could see how he enjoyed. That was something he really liked doing. Doing those games and doing the other sporting events. I did that for years myself out on the road, and it was always you had your road people you'd meet up with, and you knew them on the road, or they'd come from other areas, and you'd just meet at these jobs, So, and I did a lot of news too, which sometimes was kind of inappropriate because you're at a school shooting or something, and you're, hey, how are you doing? You're catching up with old friends because you haven't seen them since the last disaster, so it could get inappropriate. So you'd have to go, hang on.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Well, Kendall really enjoyed that part of his. He liked having the option of getting to go.
Yeah.
If they call and said, "Can you?" It's usually yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to try to remember to say is that Kendall and Joe Riddle generally alternated when they were out of town. Who's going to go? Who's going to whatever? And when Kendall was on the plane, when the plane crash happened, we didn't even know
If he had
really
done
that
that
it was
job or
him
not,
or not,
yeah.
because they used to switch shifts a lot. I
Just
mean,
depending on
Kendall and
schedule. It's
Joe.
like, hey, you want to pick up this one? I've got this going on, or whatever. So,
And they had switched that one.
yeah.
They had, and what made it even harder is that Joe knew and worked with all 10 of the people, and same as Kendall. And so he had a really hard time, and still does, that survivor's guilt. Like we've said, that is nothing. We would never in a million years say, oh my gosh, you guys switched trips or switched games or switched planes or whatever. It was hard knowing that there was the opportunity that he wouldn't be on the plane. But realistically, we never knew when he was going or not.
Right. And that's the thing too, is they say, well, there were the jets or whatever. And it's like, I would have flown with Denver every time because
Exactly.
And and Kendall would have too, and Bill, everybody that was on
Trusted
that
him.
would fly with Denver because he was the guy, he was the cool guy to fly with, yeah. So
He showed you his instruments.
that was the cool plane. I mean, that really was the cool plane. It was like, if you're on with coach and you just lost, and I'm sure you're going to hear about the rundown of the whole reasons we lost and everything else, So you're on that plane, you're sort of just okay. You got trainers and sort of the misfits of the of the trip, It's like, which they're not misfits, but I mean it's it's sort of the cool plane. It's all the cool people are doing it.
There were a couple different, what word am I trying to think of? I don't remember. My brain just doesn't function.
Oh, you've done good. Well, let's talk about Christmas and then move a couple more things and then we'll wrap it
I'll
up.
bring Mom in.
Yeah. Around the kitchen table, did you have certain spots, certain chairs you always sat in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Did we? I don't remember.
because growing up before you and Kendall went to ORU, every night we would read out of the Bible, sitting at the table.
I remember that up in New York.
And that you guys getting in trouble all the time because you were leaning back in your chairs, like on
Us
two
too.
legs.
Us two in trouble?
Lean back and let you go through the wall there.
But, Kendall would get yelled at, and so Amy and Nelson stopped doing it. And Kendall would keep doing it. It's something I don't want to say that he was defiant, but he believed in what he believed, I guess is a good way to put it. And I learned from that, That one summer, he took the responsibility of me staying there with him instead of going to do the startup on the TV station in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And I thought it was really cool because he would actually let me stay with him when the whole family had to go.
And let them do that.
Mhm. So,
And you didn't burn the house down.
nope, didn't at all. But I think that's why my hearing's so bad now, because he used to play the music so loud.
You could feel it.
Yeah, you
It's
could.
good bass and 15-inch woofers.
Yeah.
100 watts per channel.
Was he Mom's favorite? Or do you think these two are Mom's favorite?
Who do you think? That's not just my thought.
Well, that's usually not the middle child's usually not the favorite.
That still is to
I
this
didn't
day.
do it. No.
You didn't do it.
And you can always tell when he's trying to lie about something. Because see, right there on his cheek. So.
Family secrets, I don't guess we should go down that rabbit hole.
But
Call
like,
Mom in.
Mom made all of our outfits for Christmas pictures.
Oh, she used to have to, whatever you call it, put heads in. If one of our heads, she'd cut
She was original cut and paste. before it
original
was
cut
on
and
the
paste,
computer,
because if we weren't all trying to get 4 kids, so we were all looking decent, and she'd take different ones, and if one wasn't smiling or was doing something, she'd literally cut the head out, paste it, and then you'd copy it.
Because you try to get, all the kids to look
No.
right in a picture for Christmas card.
It's not gonna work.
No,
So you couldn't Photoshop back then, so
Not
it
then.
really was cut and paste. Cut out.
She'd probably enjoy that now, though. She could go back and
Exactly.
do some.
Yeah.
I've done it with our, she'll ask me to do a Christmas card. She wants all of us in the pictures, but we all haven't
Different
been
locations.
together for the picture.
But you have to
So-
make sure
But
there's
at the Christmas card, we're all in one picture. so-
glare on one person's eyes. You
Yeah.
gotta put it on all of them.
Right. Exactly.
We've covered a lot. Is there anything that I haven't known to ask?
I don't think so.
I don't have
You've been very
anything to
thorough.
say besides we appreciate what you're doing.
How do you think he would like to be remembered? And we'll finish up with that. How do you think Kendall would like to be remembered?
think kind,
Genuine.
genuine. He wouldn't spare your feelings to tell you the truth. But
Give you the shirt off his back.
do you remember when Kendall hitting rocks with a baseball bat after Mom told him not to?
Hit you in the head with one.
Hit me in the head hit me bad. And I remember Mom saying he took me upstairs to where she was taking a shower, and he thought honestly that he had killed me because, anytime you get a cut on your head.
Well, you were probably 2 or 3 or something.
Yeah.
You would get injured often because
I
you were around older
Did.
kids.
I was trying to keep up with Kendall and Nelson and Amy, and like Amy said before, he would climb up the trees, the skinny trees,
Right
and
down.
climb up really high, and you would ride them down to the ground.
You just hold on to the top and the
Just
tree.
To be
Yeah,
at
that-
the end,
Yeah.
like a
As
Charlie
long
Brown
as the tree
picture.
wasn't rotten.
Yeah, go up and then you'd come down slow because the tree would bend over until one broke, and that's when he broke his ankle. So.
Yeah.
I'd say kind, caring, genuine. Give you the shirt off his back.
But there was the mischievous side to that.
Not mean mischievous, just
No, not
just,
mean.
just
No.
mischievous.
Just like, I don't know, for instance, if you have something that you're hiding, playing a game or something, he might hide it some specific place, like he was sitting, and it'd be underneath those. Oh, and all of you guys locking me down underneath the toy chest.
You
Sam,
remember,
look at-
you remember bad stuff. That gets pushed out of my head.
Yeah.
Did you play Monopoly?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did they? In my family, my older sister always claimed the Blue Park Place or whatever it was.
Oh,
And
Broadway
if we
Place.
landed on it, it was unacceptable. We couldn't buy it because it was hers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Used to play Monopoly. I don't know. We played some games. We play a lot of board games.
Well, you were outside.
Scrabble.
Outside.
Yeah. We were outside a lot. And then playing radio.
Playing,
Right,
playing
right.
radio.
Yeah. But yeah, and then toy around with mechanical stuff, with the go-karts and stuff. So I was young, but I don't know.
I would say how I would like people to remember him and how I remember is that he was a kind soul, but he wouldn't take crap from anybody. Does that make sense? That you can still be kind and happy and loving and all that, but you're not gonna let anybody walk
Right, it's
over you.
be honest with me, I'll be honest with you, and
Yeah.
we'll just,
He was happy with who he was.
Yes,
Sounds like.
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it.
right.
Yeah.
Just you can like me or not, it doesn't bother me because
I am who I am.
Be nice to you as long as you're nice to me. You know, I'm not gonna hold you against you unless you do something wrong to me.
I wish I had had the opportunity to meet him myself.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll wrap up unless you anything else you want to say. But we'll say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.